welcome back to my studio. This is Emma on a beautiful, calm September morning. I'm sure there'll be storms to come later on in the year, but right now it's really very lovely and it's just so peaceful. I'm so at peace here. I got up quite early this morning to go and get my chickens and the geese up, and actually we're looking after next door's chickens as well at the moment. And I actually came out, I sort of half in my pyjamas but with a big warm coat on the top half, dare I say it, and it was just really lovely to come outside. It's, you know, one of those days when the sun's just kind of glinting through things and picking up on there's a lot of dew, there's a lot of very heavy dew at the moment, so the ground is really wet. So I'm feeling quite autumnal, although I'm still dressed kind of summerish because it's not that cold during the day. Obviously the nights are beginning to draw in a bit, but during the day it's temperate, it's quite nice, and I don't like getting too hot, so I've kind of compromised. This is a hilarious thing. This is a cashmere jumper which you'll be horrified at, but it was one I kind of felted up a bit in my washing machine because I was going to make a bag out of it, and in the end actually what I did was I cut the sleeves off and cut the neck down, and it's a cute little waistcoat thing to wear when you kind of want to be warm but cool. And it's quite cool when I'm just sitting here talking to you, so there you go, bit of autumn meets summer. Typical fashion. So today I've been looking, if you've been watching my Instagram or Facebook posts, I've kind of been looking back at some of my older work and feeling quite like a simplicity about it. I used to do quite simple things. I'll show you one here to give you a taste if you haven't seen my posts. I'll just give you a little taste of that. There we go. So this is done with a lot of wool fabrics. So things like this, funnily enough, where I felted them up because I used to make handbags out of them actually, and then I started making pictures as well, and I really love it. So this is a bit of tweed. This is a very old piece of tweed actually. It dates back to when I was a child. My mum made me a skirt out of it, and I've had it in a box for years, and it's so pretty. This is some other fabric, which I'll go into more detail actually when I show you close up. But anyway, the idea is you're taking simple strips of fabric and creating a landscape with it, with a very simple seed head. So there's that one, and again I'll show these closer up to you shortly. I'll just let you have a little quick look at that one as well. And that's got some copper seed heads on it. So I'm kind of feeling like I just want to play around. I've got a lovely box of fabrics here waiting in the wings, with some nice woolly fabrics, a bit of a mix, not completely wool fabrics. And if you've got any old jumpers lying around in your cupboards, or better still if you know your partner or your husband have got some kicking about the place, or your wife or whatever you've got at home, whoever you've got at home, it's quite handy if they've got things they don't want to wear anymore, and you can just stick it in your washing machine at a nice hot wash and turn it into felt, and it's lovely for stitching into because it's very soft but it's quite firm as well. So this is a piece of jumper, and it's a little bit felted, so it's depending on how hot you wash them as to how felted they go. It's a bit of an experiment, so I can't give you exacts. I think I used to wash mine at 50 and then see what happened, and then if I needed it more I would wash them again. Sometimes it was a disaster, I have to say, and they would be completely shrunken and totally useless because they'd just go so thick that you couldn't really do anything with them. But it's quite a useful thing to have if you've got, you know, it's charity shop finds, wherever, you know, pinch them off somebody's back when they're not looking. I haunt people, I say, give me your old clothes, because I can do something fun with them. So today that's what we're going to do, and hopefully it's going to be something nice for you to watch. And we'll just see, as I always say, where it's going to take us. Okay, so as I say, I'm feeling quite autumnal today, and although it's a lovely bright sunny day, it's definitely, when I look out the window, there's so many colours of autumn coming in now. So I put together a little bowl. This is a pretty little woven bowl, which is nice and textured in its own right, and I've just put some little colours here together to try and pull together how I'm kind of feeling and where I think I want my work today to go, kind of. I've been fiddling around with little colours like this, putting colours together and just messing about, which is quite fun to do. It's always about playing with me, as you know, anybody who's watched me for a while. But what I wanted to show you was I'm kind of thinking of going back over to sort of simpler times when I used to make very, very simple quite structured sort of landscapes, using very simple pieces of fabric. Almost like, this is almost like the plan of the land, isn't it? Usually I do my landscapes kind of looking at the land and seeing the hills and the lines of the land sort of going up into this up into the sky, as it were. This is very much looking down, but it's looking at the textures, some of the colours, and there's another one here that I did. These are quite old pieces. I had these done a long time ago. They're using one of my favourite cloths that I used to use a lot of, which was tweeds and felted wool. Now this is wool jumpers that I used to felt up in my washing machine, but you see when you cut them you get some really nice, I don't know if you can really see the textures on that. You start to build up some textures, and then with some simple stitching into them you get quite a nice quilted effect. But again, it's all very, very simple. So this one I'm going to show you now. This is again just looking at the simple ideas of colour and line. So nothing complicated at all, literally just strips of the fabric that I would cut and lie down next to each other. This one's a tweedy piece that's got some textures going on in it, and it's pulled together some of the colours that are up there. And then I've put a simple sort of seed head in it, quite stylised, very simple. And I'm feeling at the moment like I just kind of could do with a bit of simplicity. It's a complex time of year, isn't it, autumn? For those of you who are in autumn, I think spring's equally complex, but it's a time of great change, and I think with everything that's going on in the world, I just feel like I could do with a bit of grounding and a bit of simplicity. So I'm feeling like turning the clock back. I'm feeling a little bit nostalgic getting these pieces out. As I say, 'cause some of them are quite oldish. And here we go. I think I probably, this one's got, I'm not sure if I can show you this one completely. I'll try and scan it down for you in a minute. But again, it's got simple strips of fabric going down. I'll just see if I can show you if I do it this way. Sorry, it's a bit tricky this, because landscape is that way, but my landscape goes up the other way. But it's got a lovely sort of autumn moon type thing going on, or a lovely autumn sun, and then lines of the landscape going down over. And then this could almost be like a lake because it's quite shiny. It's some velvet fabric. And then I've just done some very simple copper coloured seed heads at the bottom. So again, simplicity. Okay, actually I wanted to show you this one as well. If I can do that, I'll try and do it like that so you can see the whole thing. Again, very simple stylized lines across the landscape. I mean, how simple is that, with some stitching to look like furrows on the top bit, this brown here, and this bottom bit down here in this sort of mulberry colour. Very simple stylized seed head, couldn't be easier. It's got some nice rough texture going on there, but the main thing I wanted to show you this for was because of the edges, and the edges have just done their own thing, which I really like. As on some of the smaller pieces that I've just shown you, it's allowing the fabric either to tuck underneath if you want it to be smooth and neat, which I think I did for this, or you leave them raw. And these wool fabrics just allow themselves, you just cut them and they don't bleed, they don't cut, they don't fray. I mean, and then again, I've mounted this on a piece of wood, which is something else I thought I'd show you. A simple painted piece of wood, carefully glued on so that nothing comes through to the front and it doesn't get damaged by the glue. And I've even daringly left a little bit of the seed head sticking out at the bottom there. So, you know, again, a very simple design, a simple composition, but really quite effective. So now we'll get to the fabrics. Okay, so what I've done so far is I very rashly cut myself a piece of calico, tore myself a strip of calico. This is just going to be my base fabric. It doesn't really matter what you use, I don't think, because the wool fabrics themselves have got a nice quiltedness to them. Might need a bit of stitch and tear if they're a bit floppy. If you're going to use an embellishing machine, which I have to say I probably would if I was doing this just for myself, because that can help stiffen it up a little bit if you embellish these fabrics down. And the embellisher is actually designed for wool fabric, so it should be nice and easy. But I think I might use a little bit of stitch and tear behind here, possibly, just to give it a bit more stiffness. I'm going to try and do it this way up, so I hope you're going to be able to get to see it all, because I feel as though that's the way I wanted it to go. Although doing it that way could be quite fun as well. You get a very different view of the landscape going on like that. So I'm just going to do simple strips, I think. I was going to do bits and pieces and little cutouts and jigsawy bits, but I thought for this one, again, I'm just feeling very simple. So I've cut some little pieces of fabric out just to start playing around. And this isn't the fun bit. This is the, oh, well, let's try. What if I put, you know, what if I don't put that there? What if I put that bit there? There might be a bit too much of this, but I've cut it big enough. And you'll notice I've cut it much wider than the piece of calico, so that if I do want to tuck them round behind and stitch them down like that, that means I can keep my edges neat for the ones I want to keep neater. So that's a possibility, and at this moment in time I'm just playing to see what I fancy putting in. I've got some of this fabric. This is really lovely fabric. I can't remember, I bought it at a show, I think, probably Knitting and Stitching, and I don't think it's completely wool, but it's got this really nice textural quality, and I have used it quite a lot down the years in landscapes because it instantly gives you some texture, and it's also because it's sort of multicoloured. It's not too heavy, so compared to that brown, it's got lighter tones going on with it, so that could be a piece that you put down there. I was toying, I even got some greys out, and I was kind of toying with the idea of whether I used some greys in the mix as well, but I think I want to keep to the brown as my base sort of tone, I think, and maybe add a bit of this into the mix as well. Let's just see, this is somebody's old jumper. Again, charity shops, how wonderful. Not only do you get lots of fabric for your money, but you get lots of interesting fabric for your money, and the charity shop gets your donation and gets a shot of some more clothing from its piled high stacks of the stuff. And I think it's very satisfying. I mean, I can make so many things from one garment. I mean, some of my garments in my boxes have been going on for donkey's years now. Same pieces. Now these are getting these are a little bit smaller. Perhaps I should be thinking to make them a little bit bigger, so that we're getting back to the simple idea. But as I say, I'm not quite sure where this is going. I might have to do some more playing around with it. I thought I would quite like to get some of the, I've got this pretty shade in which picks up the colour in here, that sort of autumn orangey colour. Sort of, I don't know what shade you call it really. That's really pretty, so I might cut a biggish piece of that. Isn't that nice? What a satisfying sound. And I've even got my autumn scissors out, my orangey scissors out as well to celebrate. I do like autumn, and we've got the equinox coming up next week, and it's a full moon today, so it's all very auspicious, I think. See, once you start to play around, you get different stories going on. Basically, you could tell 100 different stories just through rearranging your fabrics and putting them in a different order that pleases your eye. I've run many workshops, and I often get asked, you know, should I put this with this, should I put this with that? And I say, well, does it please your eye? You know, I'm looking at it with my pair of eyes, and I might see something completely different to what you're seeing, because we all see colour differently, don't we? We all see texture and line and shape. So I think I need to play around with this a little bit more, and then I'll get it pinned down and work out what's going to happen to it next.